What? Sorry. Just kidding, I staged it. I don't have a cameraman yet. It's 6 o'clock in the morning in Switzerland at this moment. So, yeah. Over the last couple of years, it has happened too many times that I see family members of people suffering from a mental illness coming and asking about how can I care for my family member, how can I do my best to alleviate the pain and care for this person in my family who's suffering from a mental disorder, while they themselves actually are struggling in silence about how they are dealing with the fact that someone in their family is having to deal with something so difficult. So I wanted to make this video because I wanted you to know, you, the person who is caring for someone else, that your needs are just as valid, even if they are not diagnosable. And that there are ways where you can care for someone else and at the same time not sacrifice yourself in the process. This video is actually inspired by one of the questions that you asked me to tackle. The question was a little bit different, asking how can I care for a friend who is experiencing mental difficulties. And I will answer that specifically as well at some point. But I felt that at this point, I am better equipped to actually talk about how to tackle mental health in the family. And I hope that this will also help you maybe translate it to your situation if you're caring for a friend. Or if I still haven't answered this question for you, I will make sure to tackle it. But before I get into the whole topic, let me tell you a huge thank you. I am actually so happy and amazed and inspired by you. At this moment, A Voice Calling Out has 57 subscribers. And for me, personally, that is 57 reasons to celebrate and to shout out of joy, because there are 57 of you at this moment who said, I trust this person, I want to listen to this person, and thank you so much for that. And for those of you who don't know me yet and haven't subscribed yet, hi, my name is Julia Houtmeijer, theologian, psychologist, coffee and green tea lover. On A Voice Calling Out, I'm creating evidence-based and spirituality-based content about mental health and basically everything surrounding mental health and personal growth and inner work and stuff like that. So if you're interested in this kind of topics and you want quality information, make sure you subscribe to A Voice Calling Out and press that little bell icon so that YouTube will know to send you notifications each time that I'm uploading a new video. And actually, A Voice Calling Out is more than a place where I just create these kinds of videos. A Voice Calling Out is a community, is not just about my voice and what I can tell you, it's more than anything about what we can tell each other. So A Voice Calling Out needs your voice. So let me know in the comment section, what are the kind of things that interest you, that keep you up at night, or just generally like to talk about, like to hear about, like to share your story about. To be honest, you guys, my biggest source of inspiration in this world is listening from people and their stories, their questions, their ways of looking at the world. So feel free to use A Voice Calling Out, a place for your voice, and let's create a community that is truly a safe place for everybody, for every kind of voice, and let's build each other up this way. Actually, there is one more thing that you can do for A Voice Calling Out community, and that is supporting me in the campaign of the milestone of 100 subscribers. Yay! I was thinking, how about for the 100 subscribers mark, I would do a myth-busting video about popular psychology and or theology and or Bible myths. You can send me all your questions that you think, oh, is this a myth, or is this really what the Bible says, or really what psychology is about and all that. And I will be so happy to do that video as soon as we hit that 100 subscriber mark. And I can't wait to see what kind of questions will you send me in. I am really curious about that. Okay, so a family member of yours is suffering from a mental illness. For the purposes of this video, I will suppose that they are already seeking professional help. And this is about how can I deal with the fact that I have someone in my family who is suffering a huge load, a kind of load that is even maybe too big for them themselves to carry alone. And how do I not, by myself, become ill in the process? How do I become more resilient in the process? And at the same time, how do I really grow? How do I help them and myself at the same time? So before the actual tips, here's baseline. If you're watching this video, if you are looking for ways to help your family and at the same time to take care of yourself, you are doing great. You are doing great because this is a very hard situation and you are supposed to feel all the feelings that you're feeling, and it will get better. First of all, it will be helpful if you create a mental image of the boat that you're all sitting in together. You're all sitting in the same boat. And why am I saying this? First of all, because if you are mentally separating categories within your family, like the kind of healthy, which we don't want to do, but it happens, then we mentally also assign to these categories different strengths and different weaknesses to the cost of everybody. Because if we imagine that those who are sick do not have strengths, do not have resources, do not have their own individual value that they can add to the whole family system, the boat, then we are doing a disservice to them. We are saying that we are actually not realizing all the things that they still have as humans, as valuable humans who can really bring resources even despite their illnesses. And we're doing a huge disservice to ourselves as well, because then we will imagine that we have to do all the work that we actually don't have to do alone. It will create a huge inequality, and it will just put way more pressure on your whole family. Just say goodbye to thinking in categories and create the same boat. And the reason why I also like this image of the boat is a very specific way that a professor of mine used in university, and that is, if we imagine sitting in the same boat together with someone else, he used it for a couple setting, so it works better in diets, but I think it also works for families. Then just imagine that only the one is rowing. What happens? The boat goes in circles. So whenever we have someone in our family who is suffering from a mental illness, we shouldn't think about them as their disease. We should think about our whole disease. It is a we disease. And in order for our family system to be growing, to be going in a direction, even at the smaller pace, even if it's a direction that not all the other families are going into, to make this movement possible, we all need to put in our resources, to acknowledge our weaknesses, and to decide together how the boat will go forward. And I think this is a very empowering idea, both for the person who is experiencing some kind of mental disorder and for you, because it means that you don't have to be the one who is picking up all the slack all the time. Yes, you might have to take a little bit more responsibility on than usual, but it still means that you can work together to figure out how to use the resources, how to use the strengths of your family member who is suffering at the moment. If you are someone who can use your Christian faith as a resource, then just think of what Paul is saying to the Galatians. We should all carry each other's burdens, but at the same time, each one of us has to carry their own burden. And I really love that these two verses are just a couple of sentences apart, because it says it helps us realize this interplay between, yes, we should help each other out, and pick up the slack where it is appropriate to pick up the slack. And at the same time, we should also always remember that we all have our own burden to carry, and we also have our own resources to bring into the conversation. And this way, we really empower ourselves and empower the person who is struggling through a recovery process. It can be immensely helpful. There's a lot of literature on this. By the way, you know, guys, that I always put a lot of info in my description box, right? Go and check it out, because there's research there about resources. I will be referencing my professor who came up with this whole idea of reading together in this boat. I have amazingly good books about about limits and how this whole things work. Go check it out, please. It will really help you. And speaking of not being strong for the other one, my number 2 tip is seek individual therapy for yourself as well. As I said, I am supposing, for the sake of this argument, for the sake of this video, that your family member is seeking therapy, which would be ideal case. But whether they do or not, if you're dealing with something like this in your family, whether or not you're the one who is having the full-blown symptoms, you should be also seeking a place where you are the one who is in the focus attention. Because generally, when someone is suffering, we tend to give them all our attention, which is good. But we have to balance that when we're doing that over a long period of time, because if not, we will just end up burned out emotionally, and that's really not something that you want to do, nor either to yourself nor to your whole family, because that just adds to the burden. Secondly, it is possible that whatever thing that affects your family member and contributed to the development of this disorder might be also affecting you. It depends on what kind of relationship you have with this family member. If you are siblings, then you share a whole history, a part of your genetics, many things you have in common. If the family member is a spouse or a kid, things are different, but there still might be similar factors contributing to their disorder that could be really affecting you in the same intensity, but not in the same way, and you really want to address that, because you really need to also take care of yourself. So don't be strong at all costs. Be strong where you are strong, but allow yourself to be weak in the things that you actually are weak. And again, if you can use your faith as a resource, then just remember the whole New Testament teaching about you cannot be strong if you cannot be weak. So allow yourself to be weak, seek help, take a break, and whatever other ways you can help, you can do to depressurize yourself. And last but not least, live in your own story and find a specific meaning to your story in the situation that you're in. I think when we are caring for someone who's very close to us, who suffers from something very, very debilitating, I actually think this is more than just applying for mental health issues. We tend to put their story as the middle point of our lives, and all of our story has to kind of make place and surround their story. And this is especially the case, and especially hard to put a limit around if you're a highly sensitive person. And I know that some of you who are listening to this are, as I am as well, and there have been so many times that I had to learn about this. So don't allow the suffering of your loved one, as much as you love them and as much as you would love to give all of your mental resources to them, to take up the place of your story. So again, if you can use your faith or spirituality as a resource in this, then ask yourself, ask God, what is the lesson for you in this situation, right? Because if you believe that everything happens for some kind of a reason, and even if it doesn't, you can still find a meaning behind it, then you will be able to look at this situation as something that is also very specifically about you. Even if their suffering is about themselves, what is it in the situation that is about you? Where does this come into your story, and what are the pages that are written into your story through this situation? And overall, what I really want you to know is that even though you might not be the one who is diagnosed with anything, even though you might be the one who has to be the strong one or the caregiver or the provider in your family, you still have worth and you still have value, and your needs are still very, very much important. And I really want you to know this, especially as you're caring for someone else. I want you to look at the thing that you have to do at the moment, at the care that you have to give at the moment, also something that has been given to you as a treasure for your own growth and for your own process and for your own well-being as well, because it can be. But for that, you need to kind of step a little bit away from the huge center of suffering that is in your family, and try to ask yourself, what is my story in this? There have never been moments that I've grown more than whenever I went through the hard times and I asked myself, okay, but what is the good in this? What is it in this situation that is actually something that is for me, for my own benefit as well? And I encourage you to think this way. I encourage you to not give up caring for your family, and at the same time also caring for you, because those two things cannot be separated. You will not be able to care for your family if you are not able to care for yourself. Even though you might think that the more you give, it means that the less you have for yourself, or the more you give to yourself, the less you have left over to give. But that's really not true. And your family member, even especially the one who's suffering, will be very, very thankful, because all of the things that I just said will really help them and really empower them in their road to recovery. And it will also help them realize that their road to recovery is not at all a burden for the family, or not at all that big of a burden. And by seeing you thrive through this process, it will give them hope. It will give them hope for their own process as well. And there's nothing as powerful as that, as hope in a situation of mental health, as in the context of having a mental disorder. So don't underestimate that. I hope this helped you. I really hope this was really something that inspired you, that gave you all the tools that you need when you're dealing with someone who's in your family and are suffering from something difficult. And let me know in the comment section which one of these things resonates more with you. Which one of these things will you try this week? If you know of anyone who would need this kind of guidance and advice, feel free to share this video. Feel free to also share the resources that I put in the description box. And yes, this is it for today. I'm grabbing my green tea this morning. It's morning, so I don't drink coffee yet. Very early. There's a whole story about that. And I'm waiting for you guys. I'm waiting for you in the comment section. I'm waiting for you on Instagram. I'm waiting for us to start becoming a community. And I'm so excited about what God is going to do with A Voice Calling Out. I'm so excited to hear your voices. Let me know whatever kind of topics there are in your mind, what things you would love me to tackle or not tackle, what are the things that you agree with me on, what are the things that you don't. All of those things, they're very, very welcome here, and let me know. And until then, and until next time on this channel, take very good care of yourselves, and